our first webinar. And the title of our webinar today is Managing Construction Projects with 4D Models. And this is presented by NeonTouch Limited. Our agenda today, first we'll be doing a quick introduction and logistics for this webinar. Then we'll do a quick project management primer. Then we'll have a conversation around 4D construction models, and then introduce you to services that NeonTouch can provide to help you along your digital journey. A brief logistics. This is the first webinar we are having. So there are going to be missteps. We have done our best to put things in place to ensure that those missteps are kept to the minimal. At this point, your voice and video should be muted already. Please send us comments via chat to the coordinator. I will attempt to answer as many of the questions as you pose as time permits at the end of the presentation. We'll try and go through this presentation as quickly as possible so that we can make as much time at the end for as many questions as we can take. As of yesterday, over 70 people registered for this webinar. Approximately 55% are coming from owner companies like Chevron, Shell, Seplat. About 15% are from our contractors and 30% are others, essentially people from financial institutions and all that. We just want to assure you that in our presentation today, we'll try to, as much as possible, to cater to everybody available. Please, again, if we cover any topic too quickly, send us a message, and we'll try to elaborate a little bit more at the end of the presentation. By way of an introduction, my name is Tim Okeke. I'm the lead consultant for NeonTouch Limited. Some of my colleagues that are behind the scene, taking questions and helping us get ready and prepare are Obaro Agbada, Chuka Iluche, and Uche Okorie. Okay, let's get into it. A project, like you know, is defined as a sequence of unique, complex, connected activities having one goal or purpose, and that must be completed within a specific time, budget, and according to specifications. Projects drive change in organization and helps an objective. An example is Dangote wants to be a major player in the marketing of refined products in the world. So they are engaging on a major project to build a refinery in Lekki Free Trade Zone. And that gets them, once that refinery is done and starts working, that makes them a major player in the marketing of in the global marketing of refined petroleum products. Project management is the body of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques required to achieve project objectives. Good project management enables organizations to execute projects with excellence, efficiently, and effectively. Every major company in the world that expends a lot of money on capital projects have good project management systems, or at least try to put one in place, because capital projects represent a major spend for every company, and the better you can do with that, the better for your company. A good project management process must be scalable to accommodate both small and mega projects. And here I want to make a distinction between owners and contractors. Both owners and contractors can have good project management systems. It may be focused on different things at different times, but one is needed for both types of organizations. The next thing I have here, which a lot of you may have seen in one shape or form, is a gated project phasing process. Essentially, you you subdivide your project development process into a number of gated processes. A lot of companies have a 5-stage, I've seen a couple of 6-stage, but we have basically decided to focus on 4-stage process right now. And depending on the size of your company and the size of the projects you engage in, this you may have to modify to suit. The first part of that is the planning stage. At the planning stage, you confirm your business case and you begin to plan your project. You begin to plan how you intend to deliver your project. Typically at this stage, you will have completed about 10% engineering. And at the end of this phase, you take your information to your decision makers. The diamond in there that you see at the end of each of those phases represents a decision point. At that point, your decision makers will have to make a decision on whether they want the project to proceed or to recycle or to stop. Again, for each of the different phases, you want to do as much work as you require to get to the decision you need at the end of each phase. That is very important, and essentially it helps organizations through their project processes in bits. The next stage will be the design phase. This is the time where you fully define your scope, you fully define your construction methodology, you begin to put more flesh to your execution plans, you begin to do your detailed cost estimates, more detailed risk assessments, and economic analysis. At this stage, at the end of this stage, it's typical to have completed about 25% of your engineering. Again, at the end of this stage, you go to your decision makers, put your data in front of them, and have them check to say, go ahead, do some more work, or please, this does not meet our requirements anymore, let us just can it. It's always easier to stop a project before you have expended a whole lot of money. Before you have expended a whole lot of money than to go ahead and spend a lot of money and find out that you have not met your objectives. The next stage on the project phasing process is the execute phase. It's really, this is the phase where the rubber meets the road, where you commit a lot of money, where you award your construction contracts, where you begin to complete your detailed engineering, you mobilize your contractor to site, start your installation process. At the same time, you are finalizing your operating plans. And like every learning organization, you begin to gather lessons learned so that you can apply that in the development of future processes. At the end of the execute stage, that is where you hand over your project to operations. Construction is complete, you hand over to operations and begin to monitor performance of the plant. So the key takeaway from this slide is that you have a gated process, and at the end of each of the phases, you go back to your decision makers to basically say, this is what we signed up for, we are happy with the way it's going, it will meet our objectives at the end of the day. And for each of the to gather enough information for the decisions that you have to make at the end of that phase. Moving on, the slide in front of us now is a project influence diagram. There are 2 lines on there. The red line shows your ability to influence the final cost and schedule outcome of a project. And as you get into the project life cycle, from planning to design to execute, your ability to influence the final cost and schedule decreases as you go along. And this is pretty evident. For example, if you are building if you are constructing a building, by the planning stage, you will have completed your design and you have decided whether you are building a 10-story building or a 5-story building. And as you go along, and the more money you expend, you have basically, the more along you get, you are setting the final range of outcome for your cost and schedule. The second chart is a typical S-curve that most of us are familiar with, and that shows that your project cost increases substantially as you go through the construction phase. Again, at the planning phase, we did indicate that typically you will have completed about 10% of your engineering. In the design stage, you will have completed up to 25%. But at the end of the design phase, that's when you begin to place your order for long lead items. You begin to commit contractors to do pre-works and all of that. So your cost expenditure goes up. And at this point, but when you get to the execute stage, that's really when your cost goes really high. That's when you begin to commit workers and equipment to site. And those are the key things that drive your cost and schedule. So this is a very important chart. This is a very important chart. And it basically shows that you need to do as much work as possible in the early stages where you have a better chance of influencing the cost and schedule outcome, and before you begin to expend a whole lot of money in the execution stage. Okay? Let us look at a couple of industry data. The Construction Industry Institute is a global organization that basically does a lot of work looking at construction projects. And some of their findings over time shows that capital project industry needs a step change in productivity improvement. If you read the report, it shows that the productivity in the manufacturing and things like the aviation industry has gone up substantially in the past 100 years. But the construction industry has basically only seen a minimal change in that. So the capital projects industry needs a step change. And some of the recommendations that they have made to help us get through that step change is to focus more on data-centric execution methodologies. Some of that include using of reusing of designs and work processes, introduction of advanced work packaging, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, and the use of 4D and 5D models, as well as reality modeling. CII and others have also identified over 400 best practices for projects. And these best practices are centered mainly around team organization, cost and schedule management, risk management, as well as stakeholder management. And they have also found in their studies that success of any project is related to the adoption and implementation of these best practices. One of our aims today is to show you how the use of 4D modeling will help you along with some of these best practices. APA is Independent Project Associates, a very well-known project research company. And one of the quotes from their one of their reports is that only project systems that employ the right combination of people, work processes, and governance are able to generate capital projects that consistently meet their cost, schedule, operability, and safety targets. Again, we have looked at, talked about project management systems, how they need to be scalable, how and decision-driven. IPA also talked about the importance of project definition, okay? And they stated that project definition is one of the most significant drivers of project success. Again, the project definition stage is the planning and the early design stages. When you get those early parts right, you set your project on the path for success. And well-defined projects will typically cost less, take less time, take less time to execute, and operate better. Again, a lot of your project priorities are defined around cost, schedule, and operability. If you define your project objectives very well at the beginning of your project, you begin to set yourself up to be a successful project. So let us take one or two slides to talk about some of the key things that you focus on when you are in the project planning stage. Building on some of the things I've said earlier, at the project planning stage, you develop information that will help owners to address risks and make the decisions to either to continue to commit resources or not. Okay, and we've also talked about some of the things that you need to do. Well, cost and schedule predictability is also critical for both owners and contractors. For owners, you have joint venture partners, you have shareholders, and when you develop a project, you want to tell them that this project will be finished on January 1, 2021, and it will cost $5 million. Okay, if you are able to do that, you're able to build more confidence in yourself by your partners and shareholders. And for contractors, this is actually very important that the date that you promise your clients that you finish their project is when you finish it. Excuse me. Also, during the project planning stage, you begin to set your project organization. You begin to look at things like your contracting strategy, your construction methodology, and begin to set your project up for success. If that work is not done at the beginning stages, you'll find yourself sometimes struggling later in the project. Some of the key activities for the planning stage include safety reviews, constructability analysis, which we are going to talk about some more in the next slide, schedule validation and benchmarking. You basically look at the schedule that you are publicizing, that you are promising your joint venture partners, your clients, and your shareholders, and be sure that you are able to meet that by validating the schedule and also benchmarking against similar projects that have already been executed. At your planning stage, you begin to do your project execution planning. You begin to develop your plans around advanced work packaging. A peer review is recommended at about this stage also. A peer review is a process where you bring in outsiders, different from people working day to day on the project, to look at your project plans, your designs, and your implementation plans to help you validate that and to bring new knowledge into what you have planned. At the end of the planning stage, it's also good to take another look at the economic analysis to make sure that the economics of the project, that the economics are still as robust at the end of the planning stage as at when you conceived the project. Talking about constructability, which is very key, is the optimal use of construction knowledge and expertise to influence planning, design, procurement, and field operations to enable you to achieve your project objectives. Okay? It is to identify obstacles to a project before you even get into the field. Before you want to see those problems on paper and solve them before your project gets into the field at all, so that you can minimize delays and cost overruns. Advanced work packaging helps you define a project plan that focuses on construction requirements. With advanced work packaging, you focus plans, all of your design, procurement, to how the project is going to be installed to the minutest level. That is the best way to focus on the construction stage and make sure that cost overruns and delays are. We have already identified that the bulk of your money on the project will be spent in the construction stage, in the execute stage. So whatever you can do to save time, minimize errors, and cost overruns will be to your advantage on the project. Also, at the implementation stage, you begin to develop your project management plan. And this plan defines how the project will be executed and monitored and controlled. The project management plan also defines your reference for scope, schedule, cost, and forms the basis for your project performance measurement. A project workshop is always recommended at the start of the project, and that helps the project team and key stakeholders to align on project objectives and the execution strategy. This always helps efficiency on a project if everybody is on the same page. And during this project workshop, the project team will walk through the whole implementation plan to achieve clarity and also to gain alignment on issues. This is a very helpful project. We always want to start with a project team where everybody understands their role, everybody understands the objectives, and everybody understands how their role plays into meeting those objectives. And we're also going to show you how 4D models will help you attain these objectives. Going on to project execution. At the execution stage, a large portion of your project budget, resources, and time is expended at this stage. What you do, hopefully at this stage, all your plans are in. You have all your plans, you have all your contractors, you know exactly what you want to do. And now you focus on coordinating resources, managing stakeholders, and performing all the other project activities in accordance with your project management plan. Other key activities will be monitoring and controlling your project processes to make sure that things are on track, and you regulate progress and performance of the project. You also identify areas where changes may be required and begin to initiate the corresponding changes. Again, to emphasize again, the more work you do upfront in understanding the environment that you are going to build in and how you want to build things, the better your chances of minimizing changes in your project during the execution stage. Again, during the execution stage, you monitor the project and continue to give real good updates to your stakeholders and making sure that things are working the way you planned. And if they are not, you begin to initiate changes to bring them in line. Again, we are going to show you how 4D models help you achieve some of these objectives. Okay, let's talk about 4D models in themselves. A 4D model combines three-dimensional model, the 3D model that most of us are familiar with a project schedule to create a simulation of construction activities. 3D models communicate the overall design intent, and they are very, very good at that. But they do not communicate effectively the details like staging and constraints to contractors' work method based on time. Almost every major project right now that we know work in 3D. And every project has to develop a CPM, a critical path schedule, as part of their reporting requirements. So this information is already there. What the 4D model does is to bring this information together to develop a 4D model that can be used for the project. 4D model is a visual tool that aggregates a lot of project information, including, like we have said, the 3D model and engineering data, the project schedule, some cost schedule, equipment, and all that into a visual model that's a simulation of construction activities. This helps provide clarity and consistent understanding of the work scope. It fosters collaboration between stakeholders and engineering professionals, This is actually very key because some of the decision makers we encounter are not engineering types. And with the 4D model, we can actually show them exactly what the plan is and how the plan is progressing. It helps project teams manage risks and optimize resources, and also communication with the project. For example, if you go for, say, an EIE workshop and all of that, and you put out a project model, a 4D model, the participants will be able to better understand what you are saying, better understand how the issues impact them, and hopefully it will help you have a better discussion and quicker agreement. The 4D model also supports detailed planning around risk identification, risk quantification, and helping you make sure that those items are resolved fairly quickly. Contractors can incorporate 4D models into their bid submissions to better demonstrate understanding of the scope of work and make their execution plans more meaningful. Like all of you know, especially the contractors among us, that the whole essence of technical evaluation is for you to demonstrate an understanding of the scope and help your clients understand that you understand what you need to do and how to do it. If you're able to communicate that, you are basically sure to pass your technical evaluation. And the 4D model is a critical tool that will help you do this. Let us look at the 4D value chain. Essentially, this is modeled around the process, the project facing value chain. Okay, during the create phase, the create phase, this is at the point where you take the 3D model that's presented to you, as well as the project schedule, and combine that into your 4D model. Once that is done and all the resources are located, you can now modify that to include your cost details for all of your cost elements and all your cost details. You can input that into the model to create your 4D model. Just to also emphasize that at the early stages, when you don't have a 3D model developed already, if you have a plot plan, we can use other software like SketchUp and just develop a reflective 3D model with which you can do a whole lot of the analysis that you need to do before the full complement of a 3D model is fully developed for the project. The next stage is the engage stage. It's at this stage that with the model you have already developed, you do your risk analysis, you do your safety analysis, you begin to do your constructability reviews, and begin to do your digital rehearsals. Digital rehearsals is essentially looking at some of the complicated processes or events that you expect during the construction stage, and simulating that to help you identify additional risks or additional mitigations that you need to take to accomplish that quickly and safely. This is one of the key advantages of a 4D model. The next thing you do is you begin to do scenario analysis. What ifs? For example, instead of bringing in instead of fabricating your pipe racks in place, for example, what does this do to our schedule if they are fabricated off-site and loaded in? Some of these analysis you can begin to do very, very early in your project life cycle to gain value and make your project outcome. At this stage also, you begin to do your dynamic clash checks. Okay, so we've basically highlighted the two stages, engage and optimize, because we think that is where a lot of value is on the project. The next stage is the construct stage. It's at this stage that with With your optimized 4D model, which you probably have saved as your baseline, you begin to do your progress tracking. You begin to do your facilitate your review meetings with your life models. You begin to develop your reports and start at this stage to do some turnover planning. Once your construction is done, with your model, you can do your lessons learned, you can identify best practices, and the good thing also is that you can take this model that you have developed and hand it over to operations, because they can still use that for some of their major expense jobs and some of their major renovation jobs. This slide kind of tries to map the 4D value chain against the project phasing that we looked at earlier. Again, at the planning stage, sometime in the planning stage is really where you need to create the model. Again, we do understand that at this stage you may not have a full 3D model. Excuse me. But once you have a plot plan agreed, then you can build a representative 3D model for which you can use for all of your analysis. The critical stages of engage and optimize tie to your design phase. That's really where you do a lot of your risk analysis, finalize your constructability analysis, begin to do some of the critical digital rehearsal and what-if scenarios that you need to do. The execute stage lines up with the construct stage, and the operate and innovate stages kind of line up with each other. So this kind of helps you map 4D implementation into your existing project management process. And again, if there's an interest in this with anybody, we can, NeonTouch is available to help you work with you on this and help you get this implemented. Again, let's talk about some of the major things you can achieve with 4D models. Again, we have highlighted quite a bit of them, but let's repeat it again, just for the purpose of it. A lot of project teams are using 4D construction model now to drive significant value during the planning and execution phases of the project. And again, this results in projects that are more likely to be on time and profitable. The project teams use this for constructability analysis and schedule validation. We have already mentioned that 4D models help you to identify errors and optimize your construction plans by visualizing the construction sequences. Again, you can develop these 4D models and include simulation of equipment movement, material storage, and access locations within the model. It cannot be emphasized that it's better for you to identify problems at the beginning and resolve them than to find them at the expensive stage of the project when you begin to construct. You can also use the 4D model for materials takeoff and estimating. And you can link methods and calculations and cost codes with your model so that if anything changes, either in the nature of the work, sequence of the work, you make changes to models as well. Also use your apps and devices in the field to feed in actual progress to the design office to be updated using a 4D model. Let us now look at some of the applications, some of the specific applications of this which we have developed. Again, these are sample projects. It does not represent any project in particular. It doesn't represent any project you know or any project you will know, but we selected this to demonstrate the capabilities of the software. So let's take a look at this. This is a manufacturing plant at the early stages. What you see on screen now is the civil works going in, the plant roads going in. Again, we have made this pretty fast as part of, just for this presentation. You can make it as slow as you want. Okay, these are the early works. All the fences are in, the roads are in. What you see coming up now are some of the factory buildings. All still part of the civil work. You are going to see some of the big warehouses, foundations for that begin to show now. Foundations are being put in place. Now, foundations for some of the other equipment are gradually going in. Foundations for some of the tanks are going in. The piles for some of the pipe racks are going in, and you are beginning to see some equipment begin to show up now. Okay. The simulation will now, you see all the equipment going in. The simulation will show the pipe racks beginning to go in. Again, for this purpose, we have assumed that the pipe racks will be fabricated off-site. Okay, here are the pipe racks going in right now. And you will notice also that this, for the purpose of this, we have tried to keep the access roads as open for as long as possible. So the racks across the roads are going to go in last. And now all of the tanks are coming up. All the other equipment are beginning to get in place. Okay, and now the front fence is in. So this is the kind of thing you can have at the very early stages of the project. With this, you can visualize your construction methods. You can begin to make decisions around modularization. You can begin to make a decision around sequencing. You can begin to identify your laydown areas. You can begin to make decisions around your access areas for the plant. So this is an example of what you get for a plant. Let us now show you an example of what this looks like for an infrastructure project, okay? This our project is a 14-story building. Again, it's a sample project. The more details you have on your project, the more details you can put in your model. We developed this just to show you. Here, the foundation is already in. Now, all of the slab, all of the columns are going in. For each floor, the column goes in, and the slab follows, just like you will expect. Again, this is good for the early stages of the project, where you are at the definition stages, where you are communicating with people, where you are doing your detailed planning, where you begin to look at where you can position your cranes and stuff for the construction of the building. So this is a fairly preliminary, at fairly preliminary stages, and we're going to show you another building later in this demonstration of a building at a later stage. Again, you're just taking your 3D model or whatever model you have for and combining it with your project schedule. And just to highlight also, we are working with the Bentley Synchro software, and it can read most of the readily available engineering design softwares. For schedule, the two most common schedule software you use is Primavera and Microsoft Project, and you can upload those directly into the software. Now the claddings are going in by the sides of the building. The next thing you'll see will be the structure that supports the windows. And that's going in, and almost immediately after that, the windows will follow. Again, to also emphasize that whatever detail that you can put in your 3D model, this model can read. For buildings, you can even include your HVAC system, all of your systems that makes the building fully functional. You can also simulate all of that in this model. Okay, so our 14-story building is ready, and whoever the designer is or the architect can take this model and begin to do more detailed analysis and planning as they go along. Okay, for the later stages of the project, that is in the, let's now show you some of the, some more detailed models. And again, this does not represent any plants you know or any plants you are going to know. It's just an imaginary plant that we use for the purpose of this presentation. And now the civil foundations are going in, equipment foundations are going in, just like you will expect in any major project. The civil works will be done first while you are fabricating most of the equipment off-site. Okay, more civil works, more equipment foundation going in. And depending on what you need this for, you can make this faster or slower. And we can also show you how you can drill into different parts of the plant to get more details as you need. Okay. Now you'll begin to see some of the piles for some of the pipe rack begin to go in. Again, we speeded this up a little bit so that, but all of the dots you see there are piles. And now some of the equipment are beginning to come in and are being set on their foundations. Again, with a model like this, you can begin to look at optimization. You can begin to say, wow, should the models, should the plants, should the equipment actually be in before I finish my pipe racks? Or if an equipment is delayed, what is the new sequence I'll use to make sure that things don't get blocked in and we have to cut things up to put equipment there. So you begin to look at some of those details almost in real life. Okay, now some of the pipe supports are going in. Okay, some of the pipe rack piping are in now. You can actually narrow on particular equipment or particular systems to check on their level of completeness. I'm going to show you another slide where you can actually narrow down on different systems and use that to begin to do some of your turnover planning work. Because with this, you can begin some of that work as early as possible. You can even do some of that before construction is done, just to get you, give you a little more time at the turnover stage. Okay, our plant is almost done now. So that is what you get with this. Again, your 3D model combined, and you can see as much detail of this plan as your schedule and your 3D model allows you to. Let us look at some project tracking activities you can do with this. You can do a snapshot of your actual versus your plan. Again, the planned chart is based on your baseline, which, like for typical project controls purposes, you freeze at a particular point and you monitor again. So this slide shows week 162 on this project. Again, you'll see that the actual is lagging way behind the plan. Okay, you get to week 189, things have caught up a little bit, but things are still behind. So, but again, you can look at overall plans, you can look at individual systems, you can look at individual sections and compare the plan and actual to see how you are progressing. Again, this is the snapshot I told you about. You can focus in a particular equipment and look at how you can do a lot of your turnover planning early. You look at all the nozzles, all the equipment and all of that and begin to plan your turnover and completion activities. Let us look at an infrastructure project. Now, this is a 9-story building. Again, what this does is comparing the baseline to the actual. Again, we reemphasize that this is just a simple project selected for the purpose of this demonstration, but it gives you the flavor of what you can do. You'll see from here, at this point, the actual is at least one or two floors behind plan right now. So the project managers and the engineers will have to find ways to catch up. Again, with this software, you can focus on a particular floor. You can do a slice of the building so that you can focus on a particular section. It gives you so much flexibility to look at the plant in detail and harmonize your plans around that. Again, it just shows that the actual is at least 3 floors behind the plan. I wonder why that happens though. Why don't we ever see actuals being 3 floors above the plan? Also, please, just to remind you, if you have any questions, you can use your chat functions and send them in. We have, I think we have about 3-4 slides to the end of this presentation. So please send in your questions and we'll try to answer as many of them as we have time for. And then those that we can't answer, we can contact you directly after this webinar to talk about them. And also, if you have specific projects that you want to discuss, the application of 4D modeling, please do not hesitate to contact us. We are going to give you some information at the some contact information at the end of this presentation. Okay, our actual building is at the finishing stages now, while concrete work is still going on the plan. Again, I think let's just move on. I think you have, or you will have seen the flavor of what this can do. You can do a comparison of the actual, either as video simulations, or you can do a snapshot like we saw on the previous project. Okay. So let's talk about NeonTouch a little bit, and let's just introduce you. 4D modeling is only a part of the suite of services that we render. Let's talk about some of the other services we do, and all are kind of linked to what we have talked about today. Our project consulting services, including helping you develop your project plans, develop your project execution plans, and just planning the project upfront in the planning and in the design stages. We also render cost and schedule controls activities, which are activities that you need in the beginning to set up your projects and also to monitor your projects during construction. Our risk management efforts helps you identify, quantify, and plan on your risk mitigation efforts. We also can help you with cost and schedule risk analysis as you go ahead to be able to quantitatively qualify the risks that you have on your project. Our construction management efforts, we can have people aside to manage your projects, develop your project plans, reporting, and all of that. If you recall, one of the areas of success for projects is to get team development right. We can help you look at the composition of your project teams and help you identify areas of gaps, and help you balance and give you a multifunctional team that will be able to develop and construct your project. Claims management services, both for owner teams and for contractors, is also an area that we have developed quite a bit of expertise in. Under project assessment and monitoring, we can basically help contractors, owners, or even financial institutions assess projects at the front end before making a decision on what projects to fund. During installation stage, we can monitor the project for you, check on the, essentially engage in project analytics and constraint management, help you plan intervention and completion works. And for organizations that don't have massive project departments like the big companies, we can step in there and be your owner representatives. Digital program management is essentially what we spend most of today talking about. We can help you incorporate digital skills and tools into your project management processes if you don't have that already. And then we can also help you develop digital solutions, 4D models for your project, both at the planning stages and at the implementation stages. Okay, we do training, both engineering and project management training. We do big trainings and also targeted trainings for your project team if that is required. And we also engage in the production of operations manuals, both the paper type manuals and also digital manuals for your project. So I think we have let us take questions that you may have. Thanks for a couple of questions. Okay, let me just go through some of the questions. Some of the questions that you have. The first one is, what is the distinct difference between this software and PDMS? Okay, PDMS is a 3D modeling tool. PDMS combines your, basically gives you a 3D model, what we are talking about is a 4D model, and this 4D model incorporates both your 3D model, your schedule, and your cost information. So your PDMS model will be an input into the 4D model, and they are not the same thing. The 4D model is a simulation of construction activities, which the PDMS is not. The second question is to mention some of the 3D model softwares that are compatible. Okay, this is the model is compatible with all the essentially all of the known 3D model software. Those that cannot be imported directly can be imported through plugs, but SketchUp, E3D, AutoCAD, Naviworks, Revit, Blender, and all of those can be imported into the 4D model. That's a good question that we have all the time. The next question is, how does 4D model compare with PDMS, and what are the major differences between those? Again, it's similar to the first question. The 4D model combines your 3D model and your project schedule along with your cost information and the equipment and some of those things. The 3D model does not have schedule capabilities. Can we also, the next question is, can we also get a fair illustration using 4D interface for project development phases using a simple project like construction of 6-leg table? A fair illustration. Okay. Again, I don't know if this question came before we showed the illustrations that we did or not, but again, we can take your details and contact you directly on this illustration. A few more questions here. What is the name of this software? The main software we are working with right now is Synchro, and it's a software that was developed by Bentley. The next question is, on which projects have been used in Nigeria, if any? Can you share info on baseline schedule and actual delivery timelines for such projects if available? We have actually not completed a project to date. We are hoping that one of you will call us after this and give us an opportunity to work on your project so we can develop this data. But again, it's not a new software. We've been using this for about a year now. We have some demo projects we have done, but we have not done any projects that we can point to. But Bentley and have used this for many projects, and if that is, we can get that data and supply it to you. The next question is a very good one, which I really like. It says, great presentation, thanks. It's a very good question, and thank you very much for the compliment. The next question we have is, does this tool accommodate project constraints? Yes, you can model project constraints into this tool. And I actually think it's one of the strong points of this tool, because once you have your baseline, if your project plans changes, or if you have any, and begin to see the impact it has on other aspects of your project. This is one of the key strengths of the tool. Okay, this is basically the last question we have. I think we are going to, we'll probably stay on for the next 15 minutes, see if there are any other questions. But again, what you have on our screen is my detail. The phone number is there, my email is there, and the company email is there as well. So please, can you imagine we just have somebody just signing in now? Wow. But he's a big man, so we'll let him in. Please feel free to contact us, even if you have just a trial project that we can both work on, just to demonstrate to you the power of this. That will be very helpful for us and very helpful for you as well. Okay, we have another question. It says, can this software show actual ahead over planned? For instance, where project activities need to be sped up. Once you build your base model, you can do whatever kind of what if analysis you need to do. If you need to speed up a project, you can show that in your model and begin to, the most important thing is you begin to see what you need to do to speed up the project, and also determine if it has knock-on impacts on other aspects of the project. You don't want to speed up one part of the project and create negative impacts on the next one. So this is a very key tool that can help you look at all of that and then make the right decision on your next line of action. Okay. Now for 58 minutes and 10 seconds. Please, we'll be here for you individually about any upcoming projects that you may have and which you may want us to help you with, not only with 4D modeling, but any other aspects of project consulting, project assessment and monitoring, or training requirements that you may have. Okay, we've kind of put our flyer up there again, just for you to see. Also, immediately after this, we'll be sending you a formal feedback form. We'll appreciate if you can help us complete those. Give us feedback on the capabilities of the tools, on our presentation, and also tell us what other project areas that you may be interested in a future webinar. This is our very first one, and we plan to do this. We plan to do more before the end of the year. If there are any specific areas of interest that you have, please do not hesitate to contact us. We can contact you directly to talk about it. And if we believe it's area of enough general interest, we can make that the topic of a future webinar. Okay. Okay, we have another question. And this says, please elaborate on your capability to model project constraints with this software tool for a project. E.g., do you get involved with resource/manpower mapping or remapping and tracking for schedule? Okay. You directly after this, because just for general interest, the tool can help you plan and track schedule recovery. The tool can help you identify where the gaps are and help you know what you need to focus on schedule recovery. But on the other aspects of the question, I would like to contact you directly, and maybe I'll give you a phone call, a call after this meeting to better understand the needs and see if there's a way we can help. Again, thanks for the question. Truly appreciate it. Okay, in the absence of any other questions, we want to thank you again for taking time off your busy schedule to spend time with us today. So take a look again at the things we offer. Kindly let us know if we'll be of service to you. There are a few items we have identified, individuals that will call directly. And please visit our website at www.neontouch.com. We actually have a brand new website. Please visit that, drop us comments, and let us know how we can be of service to you. Again, thank you for being the honorable participants in our first webinar, and we look forward to having you on again. And again, finally, please kindly help us by completing the feedback forms immediately you get them, so that we'll know how we have done and how we can improve. Thank you again very much, and have enjoyed the rest of your day.